Hello and welcome back, my crafty friends. I'm Aurora, and this is Crafting More. Today I'll be going into more depth on how I form the body of the reusable bag. I took a few photos showing the difference from my first made bags to my current ones, and there is quite a difference. Since I started making these bags, I've been slightly adjusting how I go about making them. Previously, I only cut one strip in half to make both handles. I didn't fully mark out where I needed to cut or fold, and I didn't pay as much attention to lining up where the corners will be. Now I cut two strips, one per handle instead of one for two. I mark and measure everything out where I need to cut, fold, and place, and I pay closer attention to where I need to put a seam for consistent corners. Alright, before forming the body, I've already marked everything out and made the handles. We can now fold the top of the bag down a third of the way to the line, and fold once more to meet the marked line as best as possible. We want to make sure to press the crease well. Doing this will help control the material while sewing on the machine. Once I feel good about it, I like to start sewing on the side of the bag with the manufacturer seam. I start by lining up my presser foot on the side closest to our markings on the inside of the bag. As we make our way around, we are going to stop just before we get to our first dash mark. Then we will add one of our handles in, slide the end under the folded edge as far as it goes, and hold it straight. Now continue sewing over the handle end, but with more care since it is much more material for the machine to work through. When coming up to the second dash to add the other end of the handle, we want to stop a bit earlier to insert the end before the dash begins. Sew over the handle with care, all the same as the first, and continue around the bag, folding it as needed to make it easier. Once we've made a full trip around, we are going to overlap our stitching a little before making a second stitch around. Now we are going to line up our presser foot to the outer edge and go around once more. After successfully attaching the handles, we can go on to forming the bottom of the bag. We're going to hold the side folds more taut and sew a straight line from one end to the other. Once reaching the other side, we are going to turn the bag around. Line up our foot right next to the seam we just made, and make a second seam parallel to the first. Finally, we can open the bag up and fold our two new corners up towards the opening. We are going to line up all the original bag folds to find our guide before sewing across the corners we just made. Once we find the guide, we are good to sew over it. I like to go over it 3 times, once isn't enough. Going backwards the second time doesn't stick well for some reason on my machine. And a third wiggly time to hold down the second time. Now we have a bag. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you later.